Abdullah and Douna Haj Ahmed. Abdullah is a 36-year-old Syrian refugee and former detainee of the notorious Al-Khatib prison, where he endured brutal torture during the Assad regime's crackdown on dissent. A former employee of the International Committee of the Red Cross, he was arrested in 2013 after participating in peaceful protest in Daraa. Now, he has remained silent about his experience for over a decade, revealing the full extent of his trauma only after Assad's fall in 2024. Now, living in London with his wife, Douna, he is committed to sharing his story to expose the atrocities committed against countless Syrians and advocate for justice and accountability. Abdullah joins us on the line. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you.
Salam. Thank you for having us.
And Douna also joins us. That is Abdullah's wife, a Syrian refugee and human rights activist, also living in London. Left Syria during the country's 13-year revolution, which saw widespread arrest and human rights violation under Assad's regime. So in this interview, Abdullah and Douna will reflect on the impact of Assad's fall, the importance of speaking out, and the fight for justice and freedom for Syria's victim. Abdullah, we'll start off with you, right? We know this cannot be easy for you, and we pray and we make dua for your healing, but let's start off by sharing your story with our listeners.
Okay. Yeah, thank you again for having us. However, like as a world witness, in last month, it was finally after 50 years of Al-Assad regime control our country, from the father Hafez Assad to his son Bashar Assad. Alhamdulillah, finally this came to end, and this regime has collapsed. And before, we were trying for the last 14 years, informing the world about what's happening in Syria, and try to shed light on the regime crimes inside Syria and human rights violation. But because sometimes, people don't accept this reality or try to avoid it, or because they cannot see it, they keep denying. They say there is no proof, or there is no, they try to, to put this more in a political context and forgot about the value of humanity and the people who have died and lost their life in Syria regime prisons. However, when the regime collapsed, there was so many videos on social media about releasing this detainee, people who have been in this prison for 10 years, 20 years, and they were underground prison. No one know about them. No one have any information about them. And this was like the moment of truth, when finally the world cannot deny it anymore, and the world see and believe what we were trying to do for the last 14 years and try to fight against this regime. However, me personally, my story starts from 2011. I'm originally from Daraa, the city in South Syria where the revolution started and the demonstration began. Uh, in the beginning, it was like a civilian demonstration against the regime, and the regime from the first day decided to take the military road and decide to attack people and civilian and killing people. Even when we go out and the regime forces will shoot at people and attack people. Even the second day when we were trying to bury these people, when we were trying just to give them, how you say, like to bury them with dignity, the regime will attack again. And that was the cycle of the violence, and start from like March 2011 until last month. And me and other people, they were victim of this regime. I have been arrested in 2013, as you mentioned, and I stayed for a couple of weeks there. And during my stay, which was like, let's say, relatively short, in one cell, in one prison, I saw 20 people die with me in less than 1 month. And these people die for different reasons, from torture, from the medical condition, and from lack of food, and lack of normal situation. And I was not able to talk about this even after I left Syria, because I was always scared about my family, and I was scared like the regime will take revenge on my brother and my sister. And by the way, like also my brother has been arrested for 2 months, and one of my brother has been threat to be taken to the prison also because of what I was doing here in the UK. And yeah, again, right now we feel this kind of story, this nightmare has finished, but at the same time we try not to forget, we try to memorize it, because there is some people, they need to take responsibility for their action, and they need to be held account for what they were doing to the Syrian people.
Abdullah, I'm sure it's not easy for you to share the story, but thank you so much. We truly admire your courage in sharing your story, and may these words bring light to those still in the shadows. Duna, tell us a bit about your story as well. You left Syria many years back. What do you remember about living in Syria and about leaving your homeland?
Yeah, I lived my whole life in Syria, so yeah, it's so funny that I remember everything and I totally forgot everything. I was telling my friend about 2 days ago actually that I forgot things that should not be forgotten, like nobody forgets. But I don't know, maybe it's a coping mechanism. Somebody like the brain has for your mental health. Yeah, of course, I remember that people think that when they read and hear about what happened in Syria during those 13 or 14 years, they think that things started in 2011. While for somebody who lived in Syria, I know that no, things go beyond 2011. Um, um, I remember like we lived with our whole time in fear. We lived fearing everything, fearing to speak, fearing to express, fearing to speak to anybody, fearing from our neighbors, our friends. So this fear is just rooted within us. I'm not sure how easy is it to get rid of the fear right now. It's not easy at all. Um, but what I want to say is that things go beyond 2011. So everything in Syria was leading to the revolution.
And Abdullah, this experience that you went through, being detained and so on, and then leaving your country as well, how has this experience shaped who you are today?
I mean, to be honest, there is two sides of it. One of them, this experience make me stronger, increase my resilience, and I always try to show of like about how strong I am, and sometimes denying the situation or denying the trauma. But I know inside myself there is like a huge wind. We Syrian, not just me, we are broken. We are broken from inside. Even if you have not been killed or you have not been injured physically, but I know most of the people, especially here in UK, for example, when I meet the people, we always try to act normally, but when you get closer to the people, you notice like everyone has their own trauma, everyone has their own wind. Uh, what happened for me, for example, just recently, sometime I just wake up in the night screaming, and for no reason, like why like I get bad dream or nightmare. After all this time, I still I cannot take this out of my mind, because this kind of a trauma, it was like accumulated since we were born in Syria. We were born in society and where the government control every side of your life. Even if you are child, your family can be in danger if you say something wrong, or if you criticize, even let's say if you criticizing your teacher in the school, you can get in trouble, because everything was representing the regime. Everything was like one party, one color, like any other dictatorship, for example, in North Korea or any other country, where the government try to control the mind of the people. They try to control their action. They even try, if they have the power, they will control your dream. And then again, we left Syria and you move to another country where people speak different language. People sometimes they are not welcoming you so much. They saw you as a threat. They don't know your story. They don't know why you are here. even they don't want to make effort to understand your story, why you left your country. They believe you coming here to take their job, or you looking to increase your income. They don't know like there was no other option. You stay there, you will be killed, you die, or you leave. There was no third option. And then again, the process of moving to new country, the journey itself, the visa process, everything was complicated. And then you want to adapt to the system here, which is totally different from where you came from. And you want to be independent financially, you want to find a job. You cannot be weak, because if you are weak, no one, like for example, will come knock on your door to give you free food or free money. And then you still have your family in Syria who struggle from the regime, and they also struggle from the bad economic situation. And you want to be like their breadwinner, and you want to be like working here to support yourself, and also you want to work here to support them, even with the little you can, to keep them alive. Because again, this unfortunately this struggle has like a different layer of struggle. Like this situation, it's a war, it's a conflict, it's a fight for freedom, but at the same time people care about their normal need, basic need, like food and water and electricity.
And Duna, as a human rights activist, a journalist, when did this journey start? I believe your brothers also were imprisoned. You've had your husband that was in prison as well. Did the journey start before that, or is this what prompted you to advocate for human rights?
Actually, the journey started when I was very young. I remember. So Abdullah just explained that how we were raised up in school and home. So I always say that I was raised up in like very contradicted atmosphere. So I was told in home that I can express, I can speak, I can say what I really believe in by my parents. While where I go to the school and somebody asks me about something, and I just reply or answer the question that I believe in. So the teacher just called my parents and say that she should not say this. So my parents tell me that you should not say this, you should not express. And then when I tell them that, but you told me that I should be telling what I really believe in. And then they just don't have an answer, and they just tell me that when you grow up you'll understand. I grew up, I was like just feeling everything is like, it's fearing of everything, fearing to speak, fearing to express, fearing to travel. As I said, fearing from your neighbor, from your friend. You're not allowed to do this, you're not allowed to do that. You should only think in one way, just like everybody else. I remember that I wanted to study journalism, and I was one of the top students of the country. So it was easy for me to go to the journalism faculty. But my parents told me that you're free to go, but don't think that you will be able to write and to express and to do whatever you want. And then I thought that what's the result of studying journalism if I can't really write the articles that I want, write about the topics that I really want to express. And then the revolution came. I was expecting the revolution will happen. It was like it was inevitable for any Syrian person. Actually, if you ask any Syrian person, even with the fear that we were raised up with, the revolution was really inevitable to our situation. Life in Syria, when somebody like us like and say that we had a great life, no, it was not a great life. Of course we had a great life because people are great, people are kind, but the government, it was just leading us towards this. We've been ruled by, as Abdullah said, the same color, the same thinking. We were all just brought up in the same road, all of us, every person. And you should think twice about any word that you say. You should think twice about anything that you want to write about. I so for me, actually, I started writing. I remember in the school journal, and I was not allowed to write after that because I wrote something about the elections in Syria, and how we are going to elect the president if there is only one candidate. So it doesn't make sense. There is only one candidate. So what's the point of going and elect this like one candidate? And then the teacher called my father. He knew him. I was lucky actually because the teacher was a friend of my father, and he told him that you should stop your daughter. She will disappear, and she will just cause the whole family to disappear. And then I started thinking like, what is the result of everything? Like if I'm not allowed to write, if I'm not allowed to to say what I believe in. Then the revolution came. I remember it was very contradicted. I was a coward. I'll call myself. I was not that strong, but I went to the first demonstration, and I started shouting freedom, freedom. And I really, it's not like a metaphor, but this was the first time that I breathed fresh air at that time when I was shouting freedom, freedom with my friends. Although I was very, very afraid, I went back home. Um, I didn't tell my parents; they wouldn't allow me to go to a demonstration actually. And then yeah, things led like everything led to another, and I started working in my career as a journalist under a fake name. I didn't use my name, my real name, because it was so dangerous. Um, I started sharing on social media using different accounts, actually, as I said, not my real name. It was very dangerous, but at the same time, I always ask myself the question that if everybody was afraid to share, if everybody was afraid to do something, so nothing will change. One day you will die, and you will ask yourself, did you try at least? At that time, I was very, very excited to do something, but I was not very convinced that we'll be able to see the results of this, of everything that we are doing. But I was very relieved that I'm trying. I'm taking an effort. So one day when I'm dying, I will tell myself that I tried. Um, like this regime was trying to kill inside us even the initiative to change. And I was very happy that it was like I can say now, I can be very sure that it's impossible to kill this inside any human, and it's and people will always win. So this is just a message to all dictatorships all around the world. No matter how you try, people will always win.
That's true. That's true. Abdullah, how does it feel to finally speak, openly about, what has happened to you?
It's a huge relief, actually. I mean, Duna and I, during our time here in UK, we always try to speak. We never shut up about Syria, especially with non-Syrian people. We always try to explain the situation. It's a super complicated one, and I mean, it's not like an easy story, and it's not like an easy topic to explain. There is many international factors, many international members came involved in Syria, like many countries, Russia, USA, Iran, Turkey, and then it was all in the beginning between us and between the regime. However, after all this time, and especially sometime, unfortunately, the Syrian context and the Iraqi context will be always connected with terrorists and with other extreme groups. And you wanna tell the people, okay, we have one enemy is the regime, and then the other enemy, but for us, the whole thing start with the regime. However, we our big anxiety and our big stress every time, our family will call us, my brother will call me. I always feel scared, something bad happened to them because something I said here. Because even inside UK, and the UK government know about this, there was some people who are pro the government, pro the Syrian government, and they were informer for the Syrian government. They have a British citizen, but also they write report to the Syrian government about the activists of the people who are here in UK and who are in Europe. You cannot escape the Syrian regime. That's the problem. They always came after you wherever you are, and then they will come after your family. For example, one of my friends, he was in the Syrian army, and he split from the Syrian army during the revolution, and he flee away. He doesn't want to fight. He say hey guys, I don't want to kill anyone, and also he doesn't want to also fight against the regime, but he doesn't want to involve in this blood uh, bath in Syria. And then because he left the Syrian army, they came after his family, they killed his brother, and they burned their houses. What I want to say, the regime, they don't have any limit, and unfortunately, because the international community, they were silenced, and they gave many red lines. You remember about Obama, for example, Barack Obama red lines, when he'd say using chemical weapon is red line. Every time they gave a red line and they do nothing about the Syrian regime, they were going further. They feel like they are stronger and no one stops them. But for me right now, in this moment, finally, Alhamdulillah, this regime has collapsed and we can talk freely without being scared about what will happen to our family in Syria if someone will come against them or someone will arrest them. And yeah, that's like, it's a huge relief to be able to speak about this in public without fearing you're gonna cause any damage for someone else. I'm not gonna hurt someone else in Syria because what I'm saying right now in UK.
And Douna, as Abdullah shares, his experience of Al-Khatib prison and the torture that he went through, you as his partner, as his spouse, what emotions overwhelm you the most? How did it change, your understanding of who he is?
I immediately think about everybody who was not privileged enough to share their own story. I was looking at him. I was thinking about my brothers. Actually, when I was seeing the scenes of people coming out from prisons, praying on the floor, I was just seeing myself and my brothers and Abdullah and everybody that I love and know in Syria. I was just seeing that I could be one of them. My brother could be one of them. Abdullah could be one of them. But when he was telling, because I knew, but I didn't know the details. He just shared details recently with me. I didn't like to ask him because I know that it's not easy to talk about. It's a heavy topic. I was just thinking about how many people were not privileged enough to share now. How many people were like their voices were stolen from them. How many people were tortured more, because with this regime, there's something. Every time you think that there is a maximum, so this is the maximum of their crimes, that it could not go further, then you are surprised. No, it can be. It can be more shocking. It can be more surprising. They can be more criminals, because they have arts and like they can teach the world the art of criminals, like how you can be I don't know, like the violence, the being a criminal, being a killer. They don't even like just kill. No, they like to torture. They like to make it like more, just to make people. Even I was thinking people who were released. So why they release detainees after detaining them for a while? So those detainees, when they come out, they speak about the horrors they saw in prisons. So nobody will dare to go and speak against this regime. So they were planning everything. They were doing everything according to their plan. I was overwhelmed with many emotions. I was looking at him. I was very happy that he's here. I was very sad that he endured all this. I was asking myself, like, what human being could do to deserve all this? No human being deserved to endure all that torture, to endure all that sadness. This is really horrible. I was thinking about the whole world. I was thinking about everybody who could help us as Syrians, and they didn't help. I was thinking, why? Why? If I was a decision maker, like, how can I sleep every day knowing that I could do something and I couldn't? You left us being killed for 14 years, and even beyond the 14 years, and nobody cared. I was seeing people who were released from prison after, like, they were detained at 15 and they were released at their 40s or 50s. They lived more life in prison than they lived outside prison. So what is there, like, why a human being endure all that? Nobody deserves to endure all that. Nobody at all. Nobody. There's no exception to this. I chose human rights even beyond the revolution. I chose to be a human rights activist and a journalist and to speak. I don't believe that like I speak on behalf of anybody. No, everybody has their own voice. I just believe that my voice is part of the narrative, of the whole narrative of Syria. And I was just thinking about how many people died voiceless, lost their voice, lost their chance to share their story and to share what they've been through, and how many people are waiting. I knew many people actually in the Assad detained centers, and nobody came back. We didn't even find if they were dead or they just disappear. That's simple. So yeah, just imagine you go to a mother and you tell her that your son or your daughter just disappeared. So they deserve to know that they died. So we are here talking about a mother being relieved if she just heard that their sibling or their children just died, peacefully died. So she has a closure that that her children just died. She has the closure, but they don't even they took the closure from us.
Abdullah, I'm sure you still have family or friends back in Syria. What is the feeling now amongst the Syrian people after the fall of the regime?
I mean, everyone is happy, everyone excited, but at the same time, some people they don't believe it. Just again, some people they still scared. We from inside, we still feel like, what will happen next? Is the regime coming back? Especially right now, like our war against the regime was not only against the regime. Our war was against Iran. Our war was against Russia, who they were supporting the regime directly with everything they can to protect the regime until the last minute. And now, because Bashar al-Assad is still in Russia, and even his brother Maher, we don't know where is Maher, and there many officers from the army, from the Syrian army, has flee Syria. We always like, what will happen next? Are they planning to do something against us again? They or they will leave us alone, because we are sure they will not leave us alone. No one will accept the situation, and all what we need from the world right now to let the Syrian people decide what they want to do with their country. We don't want to fight against no one. We just need a little bit of peace. After all this year of war, we deserve some peace. We deserve some time to be happy, and we deserve some time to be sad, and we deserve some time to mourn the people who die. Again, there is many people, they lost their families, they don't know where they are, so they still looking for their children. They want to find a remaining of their children to be able to bury their children, and like again to get this closure of the story, because missing people still, for a mom, there is always a little bit of hope. Sorry, a mom will expect her son to knock on the door, and she will open until she know he is dead, until she makes sure he is dead. There is always like this hope. And what you can tell this mom, you wanna tell her like there is no hope, your son is dead. You cannot tell her that if you don't have like a physical proof. However, also now, uh, Syria, like there is many issue in Syria with education, with health, sorry, with food, with like our basic need for Syrian people. These people now the economic is so collapsed. The Syrian regime, they were stealing this money, and they were taking the money, smuggling the money from the central bank for the last 3 years. They take million of dollar out of Syria, and we need to focus on this. We need to focus on construction and rebuilding Syria. We need to focus on reconnected the Syrian people. The Syrian regime and the Syrian regime, like the people who were part of the Syrian regime, they are part of the Syrian community. We want to work on reconciliation, and also want to achieve a little bit of justice. I'm sure there is no justice in this world, and this world is not like a fair place, but we need a little bit of justice, and then again we need to move forward in our life. We don't want to like be a refugee in UK or in Germany or anywhere. We just want to get the chance to be back to Syria and be able to rebuild the country, and we need the new generation to be born in peaceful and normal situation like any other country.
Abdullah and Douna, Jazakumullah khairan so much for sharing your powerful stories with us today, your courage, your commitment to justice. It just shows us, the resilience that the Syrian people have, and we continue to pray and ask Allah and dua for the people of Syria for justice, for healing, and of course for lasting peace in that region. Jazakumullah khairan once again, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam. Thank you, brother. Take care. Bye bye.
That was Abdullah and Douna, that Syrian refugees speaking to us about Abdullah speaking to us about his traumatic experience of being arrested and then taken into that notorious Al-Khatib prison. And of course, his wife Douna also left Syria years back. They now live in the UK, but you can see, the joy that they have after the fall of that regime. And we are all hopeful that the days that lie ahead for the people of Syria are much better. There is still, of course, a great need for humanitarian aid to help the people of Syria. Just this morning, I seen that in one of the masajid in Damascus, they had announced that they would be giving food. And there was such a rush because of the lack of aid that has come in, and people are still struggling and so on, finding their feet. There was such a rush that unfortunately 3 people passed away, a few were injured, just in the rush to get that plate of food. So we do hope and pray for the people of Syria. And of course, we should try and help and assist in whichever way we can. It's now 18 minutes to 5.